You've both been involved in it. If you had said to me, as bullish as I was, that gold would rise 40% in a year, not even in a year, 9 months, I would just say, hey, listen, I'm real bullish. There's nobody more bullish than me, but that's a lot to ask. You know, if it goes up 10 or 20%, it's good. If it's moved 40%, that's what I say to people, and most of the investment community, think about it, the exchange traded funds were selling, they had less and less. Somebody with really big, deep pockets has been buying it and buying it for a much bigger reason than we're thinking of right now. That's my response to the general media that still reaches out occasionally and asks us, what do you think of this? This movement in gold is so big, has so many ramifications that we haven't even begun to see.
Central banks have been purchasing gold unprecedentedly for the past 2.5 years, maintaining a net buying trend yearly since the financial crisis. This surge in demand has drawn the attention of Gold IRA owners, who view it as a critical investment indicator. Notably, bankers are starting to share their insights on this trend, which is a departure from their usual discretion. According to Peter Grandich, gold's nearly 40% rise this year signifies a significant shift in how wealthy investors perceive paper money. The large-scale acquisitions indicate that major players are accumulating gold for long-term strategic reasons rather than seeking short-term profits. From January 2022 through mid-October 2024, gold climbed nearly 48%, a remarkable feat given the Federal Reserve's persistent rate-tightening measures, which saw benchmark interest rates rise over 500 basis points from spring 2022 through summer 2023. Such performance is atypical under these monetary conditions, prompting analysts to investigate the underlying factors driving gold's ascent. Many cite economic, fiscal, and geopolitical uncertainties as primary catalysts for gold's appeal. Additionally, the BRICS alliance is gaining momentum as countries seek alternatives to Western financial dominance, particularly in light of asset freezes during the Ukraine crisis. The recent announcement at the BRICS summit revealed that the bloc is officially adding 13 new partner nations, expanding its influence. As the BRICS coalition increases its de-dollarization efforts to reduce reliance on the US dollar, more countries are beginning to trade with BRICS members without using the greenback. This trend will likely bolster the bloc's ambitions to challenge and potentially surpass Western economic power in the coming years. Make sure to tune in for our expert analysis. Don't miss out on future content. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay in the loop. Your support is greatly appreciated.
One of the reasons the BRICS are able to do what they're doing is what took place in Ukraine. It was one thing to freeze the Russian assets and say, okay, just arbitrarily, we're making this decision, freeze it. But then to take the rightful interest that was deserving of them and give it to their enemies was an absolute poster #1 marketing piece for BRICS to other countries to say, how do you say that they're not going to do that to you too? And that's part of this movement of from the west to the east and the more dominance that's going to play a role in. And that's why I think the BRICS are only going to get bigger and better as time goes on. And within 2 to 3 to 4 years tops, people will realize that they now rival or surpass the Western world on many different stages. And that's when the true collapse or the debt thing that you speak of will really take place, when people can't but deny the inevitable. You know, Wall Street has, let me just, before we run out of time, this always pisses off financial people. But I truly believe the majority of people, somewhere between 51% and 99% that work in our financial industry, can be thrown off the top of our Empire State Building and all the way down, they'll all say the same thing. Hey, so far, so good. Because that's how they act until it's too late. Yeah. And then when they do hit the floor and die, unfortunately, it's too late to do anything. And that's what many financial people work under, these blinders. I call it the don't worry, be happy crowd that works in our industry. They will always see things half positive. And unfortunately, the financial networks, which a couple of them used to be somewhat independent, really just became headquarters for the pom-pom wavers and all the cheerleaders. And so it's very tough for the average working person to get a true both sides of the story right now. And unfortunately, while that's happening, most of them are slipping and losing, not gaining. They're not able to move up the pyramid. They're actually falling down further on the pyramid. And that's just another reason why that those that have the money realize that paper money is not the answer. And that, can you imagine you both been involved in it. If you had said to me, as bullish as I was, that gold would rise 40% in a year, not even in a year, 9 months, I would just say, hey, listen, I'm real bullish. There's nobody more bullish than me, but that's a lot to ask. If it goes up 10 or 20%, it's good. If it's moved 40%, and it's what I say to people, and most of the investment community, think about it, the exchange traded funds were selling, they had less and less. Somebody with really big, deep pockets has been buying it and buying it for a much bigger reason than we're thinking of right now. That's my response to the general media that still reaches out occasionally and asks us, what do you think of this? This movement in gold is so big and has so many ramifications that we haven't even begun to see yet.
As the U.S. dollar is expected to weaken next year, gold stands to benefit from falling interest rates and bond yields. This trend is further supported by gold's role as a political hedge, particularly if Donald Trump wins the upcoming presidential election. Peter Grandich predicts that gold will outperform stocks and bonds over the next 3 years. Currently, gold has already shown significant gains compared to these asset classes. A recent study by Oxford Economics, commissioned by the World Gold Council, highlights gold's enduring appeal in both inflationary and deflationary environments. The research indicates that while traditional assets may perform better in stable economic conditions, gold shines during periods of high financial stress. This resilience positions gold as a vital safeguard for investors, making it a crucial component of a well-diversified portfolio. Let's get back to the interview.
I said that for the next 3 years, minimally, gold was going to outperform both stocks and bonds. It was hard enough for people to imagine that it would outperform the stock market, but to be better than bonds was just hard for them to accept. And as you and I speak today, it has. It's outperformed both of them and by a significant amount. And then at the beginning of this year, I reiterated again for just 2024 that gold would perform better. I think what we have to ask, you and I have been involved in a lot, but let's remember that about 98 or 99% of the investing public, at least here in the U.S., has no interest or real serious ownership of metals. Wall Street has treated gold like kryptonite, and they're the Lex Luger to us gold supermen. They do not want any part of it. But to understand how to see gold move 40% in a year, if you understand the dynamics, how the gold market works, it's not because you and I and retail people have been buying gold. It's moved because of a massive change underway in the world being perceived by powerful people, and gold's going to play a role in it. That's the easiest and simplest way. Timing of the Bank of International Settlements moving gold up to a tier 1 investment to rival stocks. Why would you do that just for the sake of doing it? Because you prepared and saw the inevitable coming. And to follow that up, when you think about 20 years ago, I go back almost 40 years being involved in gold, and there was a period of time when central banks were the biggest net sellers of gold. Here, coincidentally, at that time is when the real switch is coming, what's not talked about. And this is very critical, too, in this whole bigger picture, if you're a gold bull like I believe you and I are. Not only do we see the central banks become major buyers, but we saw a great repatriation of gold from the U.S. to 33 different countries that once had the U.S. hold it. Why did they suddenly want their gold back? Because I think they recognized what role was going to have to play in the inevitable bust that you speak of, and I concur is a very strong possibility. And no one is really talking about it. I have to tell you this. I don't really watch the financial networks anymore. Most of my comes from my computer. But it just happened to be the other day, and I turned it on, and I heard a word I haven't heard in quite a while. Bond vigilantes. That there's a belief now that the U.S. got way overdone on this speculation of much lower interest rates. The Fed's going to ease. The bond market's going to rally. And sure enough, interest rates are coming back pretty high, even though the Fed supposedly just a few weeks ago signaled a big change, and we pretty well passed all the fears of everything. And I think that cut's going to come back to bite them.
Central banks' unprecedented demand for gold reflects a fundamental shift in investment strategies, emphasizing long-term value over short-term gains. As geopolitical tensions rise and the BRICS alliance strengthens, the move away from the US dollar is becoming more pronounced. With expectations of a weakening dollar and falling interest rates, gold's potential to outperform traditional assets in the coming years solidifies its position as a crucial part of a diversified investment portfolio. How do you foresee the ongoing de-dollarization efforts impacting global financial markets and the role of gold as an investment asset? Share your perspective in the comment section. If the video resonates with you, join our community by subscribing to our channel and enabling notifications with the bell icon. Thank you for being a part of our community.